Tonight, local anglers react to plans to ban snapper fishing in the Spencer Gulf. And hundreds of bike riders take off from Port Augusta for this year's Postie raid.
With the latest from around the region, your nightly news with John Hunt begins now.
Good evening. Spencer Gulf anglers are reeling from the news of a potential 3-year snapper ban. The state government is proposing the move to help restore dwindling population numbers.
It's been talked about for years, and now the statistics paint an alarming picture. The decline in snapper numbers throughout the Spencer Gulf has reached a critical point.
The biomass in the Gulf of St Vincent has been reduced by 87% and 23% in Spencer Gulf. That has sent shockwaves through the fishing communities.
The state government heading into uncharted waters, floating an idea for a 3-year fishing ban.
I'll be making the hard decisions in protecting an iconic species here in South Australia.
Local Port Pirie fisherman David Wilkes has criticised the idea, saying there's strong juvenile fish numbers coming through the system.
I think it's more of a knee-jerk reaction from a minister that doesn't really have any experience in this industry.
He's concerned that buyers will start importing cheaper overseas products. The 3-year ban may also put his own operations on ice.
Once you lose that market share, it's very difficult to get it back.
Labor is calling for compensation packages for affected businesses.
We've got to realise that this is going to have an impact on the commercial industry.
Purser saying action is needed to save the species.
The information that we have has indicated that the stocks are depleting, so in order for us to reverse that trend, then there needs to be intervention.
Dominic Beaton, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
The Weather Bureau has issued a severe weather warning for the Spencer Gulf region, with the most damaging conditions expected tonight. A local SES is urging residents to stay safe.
It's lashed the southern Flinders, dropped trees in the streets and overflowed drains in Port Augusta. Last night's storm giving our local area a much-needed drink. Whyalla received 15 millimetres of rain, Port Pirie capturing 12, while Coffin Bay fell to the biggest downpour with 32 millimetres. And weather forecasters say that was just a taste of what's to come over the next 48 hours.
We're expecting the winds to average 50 to 70 kilometres per hour and gusts of 90 to 110 kilometres per hour.
A severe weather warning has been issued for the mid-north, York Peninsula, Eyre Peninsula and far north. The SES urging locals to plan ahead to reduce the risks.
Things like trampolines and maybe even your outdoor tables that have a risk of blowing away in high winds, make sure that they're secured.
Emergency services say there were no major call-outs across the region overnight, but they expect that to change over the next 2 days, warning locals to plan their trips and if they encounter fallen trees or power lines to call 000. Garth Burley, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
A senior police officer is in hot water after sending an email offering a $30 gift card for fining motorists during Operation Fatal Distraction, which is currently underway across our region. Police Commissioner Grant Stevens says the practice of offering incentives is not permitted.
Actively involved in the operation, which is commendable, but the course of action that was chosen was inappropriate and not consistent with our policy.
The email has been recalled. A Broken Hill steel fabricator has been chosen to construct the city's new welcome signs. Nijaim Steel was awarded the contract by City Council, ensuring the work stays local.
A Silver City project getting done by a Silver City business.
It's great news for Broken Hill. The contract has been awarded for entry point signs to a local company.
Nijaim Steel has been tasked to build and erect the 5 new Welcome to Broken Hill signs once development applications have been approved. Company Director Scott Campbell says they're happy to be selected.
My team and I are really looking forward to doing the project and will take great pride in doing it. It's just a wonderful thing for our town.
Another local business, Advanced Profile Solutions, will cut the signs. Scott says mild steel will be used due to the size of the sign.
A lot of joints and then there's distortion, and that if we can go for a bigger sheet, we could do this in one to make it more streamlined. But we've got to go to mild steel for that.
Scott says it'll take around 4 weeks for the materials to be delivered once ordered and a further 6 for construction. Locals can expect to see the signs up before the end of the year.
It employs our young people. It's really good for our town. It's all kept local. How does it get any better?
I think for the Broken Hill people, they'll be happy, and when you come into Broken Hill, you won't see those old 1977 signs, which are well and overdue.
Patrick Ryankey, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Port Perry residents have gathered for the official opening of a new $8 million solar farm. The 17,000 panel site will power nearly 2,000 homes.
Port Perry's moment in the sun. A new solar farm on the town's outskirts is officially open for business.
The first of the larger scale solar farms that's operational in the area.
The Mid-North is doing its bit to minimise the nation's carbon footprint. In its lifespan, the 17,000 panel site will offset 500,000 tonnes of coal.
So this solar farm will produce about 12,000 megawatt hours per annum, which is enough for about 2,000 homes.
Renew Power Group's farm comes on top of a number of similar projects in the Upper Spencer Gulf. The member for Frome says the project has been a job creator.
6 megawatts and just under $10 million, but it also creates an employment opportunity for the people to be able to establish it.
Councils say they're hoping to see its success attract more contractors into the region.
Honestly, I believe that it is Perry's time to shine. Because of the fact that we've got so many things coming our way at the moment.
And Mr Zubranic says there's more to come, with a $650 million project on the Augusta Highway recently approved.
And if we can be recognised as far as best practice with regards to renewable energies, that's got to be a good thing for our community.
Dominic Beaton, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Still to come tonight, the annual Postie Ride gets underway in Port Augusta. And Whyalla residents learn more about the future of aged care. Welcome back. Motorbike enthusiasts from across the country have headed for the Flinders Ranges as part of this year's Outback Postie Ride. This year's $1 million ride has an extra emotional message at its heart.
The Outback Warrior revving up for another battle. 95 bike nuts preparing to wrestle their Postie bikes through the rough terrain of the Flinders Ranges.
We get from WA and Queensland. Last year we had someone from Hong Kong, so they come from everywhere.
Fundraising efforts are set to reach the $1 million mark this year. The ride kick-starting in Port Augusta today, with many praying the weather won't stall the 4-day adventure.
Should add adventure, add some fun to it.
From seasoned veterans to first-timers, there were a few pre-ride nerves.
Someone described the track as a goat track, would you agree?
I think goats would struggle on this track. I've heard a few stories last night, and yeah, it sounds a bit scary.
Riders showing off their black, camo and rainbow twists on an Aussie icon.
What's inspired this quite unique design?
So basically this is the new Postie bike. We're trialling it this year to see if it's going to last.
In its 13th year, the event will celebrate the legacy of late Apex member Justin Buzz Vomard, who recently lost his battle with cancer.
We always have a dress-up day, and he always dress up as Buzz Lightyear. So this year we've honoured Justin with our Guernsey.
Garth Burley, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
What a great event. The future of aged care in Whyalla was the focus of a community forum last night. Whyalla Aged Care CEO Juanita Walker says it's an important topic the public must be aware of.
An aged care presentation about everything from legislative changes to new technologies.
And there certainly are some challenges that we're dealing with, but there's some really positive things that are happening every day in aged care providers' facilities and in the community.
Community members gathered in Whyalla to hear more about the sector. They were also given an update on the Copper House Court upgrade.
Main stage for residents to be moving to the memory support wing will be September, October, but the whole project will be finished around March next year.
Miss Walker says the use of technology in aged care is increasing.
Also the use of robotics, dare I say, and people are a little bit frightened of robotics, but they play an increasing role in aged care.
The Chamber of Commerce says aged care is everyone's business.
It's certainly an interesting topic. I believe there's difficult with staffing, all about the new build that may happen.
And there's a new program underway encouraging young people to pursue a career in the aged care sector.
They have the opportunity to train as a carer and enrolled nurse while they're still at school, so they're earning an income and they're also achieving their SACE.
Shari Hams, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Port Lincoln's West Coast Community Group have got behind National Homeless Week with a free barbecue. The team also handing out blankets and canned food for those who need it most.
Come rain or shine, the team were determined to make a difference.
Homelessness is such a big issue in our community, but it's somewhat hidden still. So just being able to raise the awareness, making people in the community aware that it does exist in Port Lincoln.
West Coast Community teaming up with Housing SA to brave the cold conditions to help those in need. The group overwhelmed by the community's generosity.
Our community is an amazingly generous community on the Eyre Peninsula. We all come together and we all support each other, especially when we're talking about vulnerable people and families.
The team here handing out free sausages, helping raise awareness for homelessness within the community. It comes as recent cold weather has made nights particularly difficult for those sleeping rough.
When you don't know where you're going to stay, or you're staying in households where there isn't any heating, or if you're sleeping out on the streets, this weather is horrible.
The team says over 1,000 people in the Eyre Peninsula outside of Whyalla are sleeping rough, but warn that number could be higher.
Apart from donations, I just really love to have a chat to people about the homelessness, what it means, what it looks like, and how we can all help, because it's as simple sometimes as just smiling.
Nathan Regter, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Stay with us after the break. We take a look at what's biting in the Spencer Golf, and Louise will have the weekend weather details. Hello again. 3-time Melbourne Cup winning jockey Kieran McEvoy has returned to his hometown of Streaky Bay. His visit comes as the town tries to raise money to build a bronze statue of the local hero.
A local hero returns to where it all began. 3-time winner Kieran McEvoy helping his hometown fundraise for a statue in his honour.
Yeah, a bit flattering and tiny bit embarrassing at the same time. It's never ever set out with a goal to have a statue made of yourself. But it'll be great for the town and for the region.
The local athlete unveiling a miniature-sized statue at a presentation night. Created by Port Lincoln artist Ken Martin, it's an example of what the real thing will look like.
Kieran's a remarkable international athlete and a remarkable person, so to be able to have the opportunity to try and bring that into a sculpture is just terrific.
Kieran visited the local retirement home and area school. He also brought a special guest with him, with this year's Melbourne Cup making the trip.
There's a level of excitement in the town when you mention Kieran's coming back, because everyone's either grown up with him, they're related to him, there's this real connection and they're just so proud of him.
The town is still fundraising to make the life-size sculpture a reality. You can support the project by visiting the Australian Sports Foundation website. Nathan Regter, 7 Spencer Golf News.
One of the true legends of South Australian sport there. Time for a look at what's biting in the golf this week. Here's fishing tips.
G'day and welcome to this week's fishing tips from Port Augusta, Jewel the North. The bloodworm run's just about to finish, so I'd be getting out for some King George whiting, mainly up in the shallower banks there, but also try a little bit deeper as well around the snapper grounds. A few salmon around down around Port Patterson and also Little and Big Creek just opposite the powerhouse. Squid have come back on the bite. The last half hour before the sun goes down is the best time to drift along the front of the shacks. And that's all we have from the Jewel of the North.
Welcome to another week around the Gulf Fishing Tips from Port Pirie. I seen over the weekend, never got a chance to get out there, but Eastern Shoal is producing some beautiful squid and large King George whiting. So while you're there, if you want to come back to the top end of Ward Spit, just towards Port Augusta from the stick about 600 metres, you'll find some also big whiting. The bottom drops off on a bit of a slope. You should work pretty well with that. Coming back to Port Pirie, if you run along the creeks, you should find yourself some beautiful salmon. That's all we've got. We'll see you next week.
Hi, Whalers Fishing Report this week. There's been some good numbers of squid down towards Mount Young. There's also been a few sporadic catches of King George whiting. A lot have been in the larger size, and it seems to be the further south, the better the result. Further down towards Menini, there has been some large numbers of squid coming down from those grounds as well. A little bit further north, up towards Whyalla, there has been some nice garfish in around the saltworks, and land-based around Whyalla, there's been some nice squid coming in around the Point Lowly area. Just make sure you stay outside the exclusion zone, and also a few salmon and snoot coming from the Rocky Point lines.
G'day and welcome to Fishing Tips in Port Lincoln. Locally in the bay, the whiting and squid have been a little bit slow. Better whiting catches have come from down the passage. So around Carcass, Taylors and McLarens have all been producing some fish. There have been some pan-sized snapper up to about 55 centimetres out wide of Sir Isaac's, and also a few nanagai and a couple of school sharks out that way as well. That's all for Fishing Tips this week. We'll see you again with more tips next week.
Weather now, and as you heard earlier, we're in for a wintry blast. Here's Louise with the details.
Thanks, John. We most certainly are. We've seen wild, wet and windy conditions about the region today. Port Augusta and Whyalla both reaching a top of 17 degrees. Broken Hill and Port Pirie 16, Port Lincoln 15, Adelaide 13 degrees. Thick clouds streamed over the Gulf due to a cold front moving over the south of South Australia. Moving on to tomorrow now on the waters, southwesterly winds at 20 to 30 knots with seas at 4 metres. And sunrise will be at 6 minutes past 7. It's going to be another cold, wet and miserable day tomorrow with those strong winds persisting around the lower Eyre Peninsula. Showers expected across most parts with heavier falls and possible hail in the mid-north. Port Augusta expecting a top of 15 degrees. Whyalla and Woodner both 14. Broken Hill also 14, but remaining dry with fine and partly cloudy conditions. Port Lincoln, Port Pirie and Kadina all with tops of 13 degrees. Corncleve and Adelaide 12, Coffin Bay 11 and Clare down to 9 degrees. Looking further ahead into the weekend now with showers persisting into next week in Port Lincoln. Much the same in Cleve with heavier falls expected on Sunday. Woodner expecting showers across the weekend with a cloudy day forecast on Monday. Whyalla, Port Augusta and Kadina all expecting showers Saturday and on Sunday, but looking partly cloudy to start next week. Maximum temperatures hovering around the mid-teens. There's heavy falls at Port Pirie on Saturday with showers expected on Sunday. Looking fine on Monday though, Clare with rain on Saturday and showers on Sunday as well. And finally, Broken Hill with strong winds expected on Saturday, fine conditions on Sunday and Monday. And John, with that, it's back to you in the dry studio.
Thanks, Louise. And that's the local news this Thursday evening. Thanks so much for joining us. I'll have some updates later in the evening, but until then, enjoy your evening here on 7. On behalf of the team, it's good night.